10% or whatever percent. But listen to me. If you are going to grow your economy by selling tree trunks, by just tapping oil from the ground that you never put there, you tap that oil and sell it. You can't even refine it. Then you cut tree trunks and sell them in a natural state, and you just get some bananas and sell, and you grow your economy. That's not an economy. It's a primitive economy. You only start talking about a real economy when you add value to things. You add value to processes. I'm talking about industry. If you don't have industry where you are transforming things, and then if you look very keenly around, we import a lot of things that we need, because you cannot go and take a tree trunk and bring it into your bedroom. So we import a lot of things that we need because we lack the capacity for industry, manufacturing, and so our economy is very, very weak. Don't get deceived about all those percentages. And then, like I've just mentioned, of course, we have a poor industrial base, and the industries were supposed to be run by our own kids, but because we train our kids very poorly, they cannot do it. And you see, when these Chinese and yellow people and green people and white people, when they're laughing at us as Africans, they have a reason to do so, because like Taeyong was saying, I think all of us black people will have coconut head. And then there's poverty, general poverty. How do we solve the problems of poverty? It's another long story. Poverty is there, and we cannot deny it. And our agriculture is poor. Our agriculture doesn't sustain our food security, doesn't guarantee our food security. If you find out that we have to be eating Chinese rice, Pakistani rice, and all sorts of rice, and we don't have enough of the rice or rice from the north or things like that, and we keep wasting our hard currencies on food and fish and champagne and water, something is seriously wrong with that. And then there's general poverty. So these are some of the problems that I just picked. And then, when people are now being irritable, is because people are not in their comfort zone. They're no longer in their comfort zone. Something is happening. The house is on fire. They are not comfortable. They are not comfortable because the system somehow was supposed to allow for the solving of problems for everyone to exist. And when the system is not helping people to solve their problems, then the tension begins to go up. And when tension begins to go up, where the strong, by one way or the other, are grabbing from the weak, then it increases the imbalance. Now, you raise your particular question on national unity. Why is it that everybody talks national unity, but there doesn't seem to be unity? Like I said the other day, we have a lot of slogans in Cameroon, and I think many years ago there was some fun going around in the country. Si vous voulez des discours, allez au Cameroun. That we are good at talking. Yes, it's good to talk. When you talk, listen. If we had in mind to improve the agriculture in Cameroon, and let's suppose I was the Minister of Agriculture, I would make a business plan as to how we should improve on our agriculture, then talk to the nation about the agriculture. After I have finished talking, then we now go to the second, third, fourth phases, where we now go on the field, where we train our youths on agriculture, look for equipment and whatever, all the inputs for the agriculture, look for the farms and put everybody onto the farms somehow, so that we start producing whatever we are producing, and then we look at the value-added chain and begin to package these things and sell and eat and sell to other people. That's how you do it. You say it, then you do something about it. But you see, in Africa, we have a lot of people who are just a lot of fame, and they're just in coat and tie. They will talk from morning to the evening and do nothing about it. That's why President Paul Biya has locked many of them in prison. If you go to prison, they are full with ministers and directors. That's why many people will not believe it, but I think President Paul Biya is one of them. He feels very sad, and because you trust people and you hope that they will do things for you, but like he said in 2013, the people are just so concerned about their person, themselves, their families, and they're all suffering from inertia. So it's a big disease in Cameroon, and that's why initially, when he came up as president, everybody was like, hands on deck, let us see how we solve problems. And then as the years have been going by, that vision has been fading, has been ebbing, and there's very little to show. And it's because a lot of these ministers around him are just sycophants. The president puts people there to solve problems, but they spend the time. See, when President Paul Biya makes you a minister or a director, He is not expecting all of you to go and gather in some village and start singing a choir and making him the God. No. He is putting you a minister so that you get effective work done and solve the problems of Cameroonians. But a lot of these people, they fail to do their homework, then go to the villages and sing and concoct all these choirs and are singing every quartier and every TV and so on, and praising the president and clapping. That's not what he appointed. If he wants a choir, he can make a better one. But to be appointed and then you think that is the problem.
Okay, Dr. Nick, yes, somebody's writing that the divide, hate, and everything is a plan machinated by the government to keep people aside. Do you think that the government is asking you to hate me? The government is asking people to hate themselves, brothers to hate themselves?
Mr. Leo, I will say a no at a 90% level. I do not really hold the government responsible for the hate speech or the hatred which we have amongst Cameroonians, and I will explain. Mr. Leo, the topic of today is growing divide and hate, time for true forgiveness and reconciliation in Cameroon. But when we sit on the panel and you start calling the government a kangaroo government, you start saying coconut head, then when do you expect us to start reconciliation? Because reconciliation is going to start now. It's not a question of when. The government has always been reconciling. It's a question of where. And before we go there, we need to divide reconciliation into two types. We have individual reconciliation between you and I sitting here, right? Because we see that the positions which people have taken, somebody hates another person because of the political party the person supports. Somebody hates another person because the person is working in the government. No. We need to say a stop to that. Are we going to blame the government for that kind of hate? No. So we see that for individual reconciliation, the government has nothing to do with that. Now when we look at collective reconciliation between the government and other factors, we can see that the government probably had a different position prior to 2017. But the government has been evolving to accept peaceful mechanisms. For example, the creation of the DDR centers is an extension of the government's arm to peace. The resolutions of the major national dialogue which has taken place is also an extension of the government's hand to peace. And I would also likely disagree with Dr. Nick's point where he was citing growth in agriculture, growth in technology, schools, and the rest, which is going to bring peace and the rest. Dr. Nick, I will remind you that a country like the United States has everything you've described. But today, the United States is deeply divided with hate speech, and it's not because they lack all those things. The first thing why they are so divided in hate speech is because of misinformation. If we have somebody coming to say Maurice Kamto is the president, like misinformation, he's indirectly instilling into the minds of people the spirit of rebellion. If we have people who distrust everything the government has done, the government has just created the regional house of chiefs, the resolutions of the major national dialogue decentralization process, which has not even gone up to 2 years, but we are very quick to judge them. And when we judge them, what do we expect of the people who watch us? Just an infinite loop of the hate speech continuing. So we cannot blame the government for inciting hate speech or promoting it. Rather, the government has been doing everything in its efforts to be able to reduce the hate speech. Look at South Africa, a country which we connect to Nelson Mandela and we see as a country of freedom. But where are they today? Xenophobia and hate speech. So we cannot be blaming the government. We should blame the people who actually instill hate speech in the minds of other people. And the first kind of people to blame in this crisis, or in this crisis of hate speech, are journalists. Because journalists have been carrying out the greatest misinformation ever. It's the very thing in the United States, it's the very thing in Cameroon, where journalists have been misinforming people, giving half-truths, diverting, because they want to score cheap points.
You're accusing me?
I'm not accusing you. You are just, in everything they are always different. So there are always people who are different. But I'm trying to, on a general principle, we have seen those who are custodians to information misinform the public and therefore push the public to extreme positions. So we cannot blame the government.
Okay, to some extent, yes. But why do people easily conclude that the division, this is an act of the government? Is it the fact that we also are refusing to take our responsibilities, or there are some mechanisms that can clearly say that the government is responsible for this?
Mr. Leo, I think listening to, I will come back to what you are saying. You are asking me, but I think we need to. This is my other panelist, Mr. Ayaba, is talking about truth and reconciliation. I've done a lot of research when it comes to truth and reconciliation in Africa. And one of the best truth and reconciliation was when Nelson Mandela came to power in 1994. He organized a truth and reconciliation in South Africa, as per se related to the apartheid. When you come to truth and reconciliation, you don't justify. You don't bring it. When it comes to truth and reconciliation, there's nothing like government that doesn't know.
When justice must prevail. Without justice, there's no peace.
There's nothing like government that doesn't know. That's not truth and reconciliation. When this man came to power in that 1996, when he created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission headed by the then Desmond Tutu, he made it very clear that all South Africa are wrong. There's nothing like this man is right, this man have created this. All those your commission, you are creating all those things, it does not make sense. Because when you want to call the other part, the other separatists, they will bring their own justification. I think we are here for reconciliation. We should face don't be saying that this man have done this man. No, that's not true and reconciliation. Instead, when it comes to truth and reconciliation, the key word here is forgiveness. All are wrong. We should be clear about this. Mr. Luke, there's something when I element mentioned here that the reason why there's division and hatred in Cameroon is because of one thing. There are other aspects, but I look from political perspective for division and hatred in Cameroon. From 1966 to 1990, there was a single party in Cameroon. 1966 to 1985 was CNU, Cameroon National Union under President Amadou Ahidjo. In 1985, Mr. President Pobia changed to CPDM from 1985 to 1990. One single party. And all this hatred, all this division was not as easy as we are seeing today. One, I blame some of the aspect of hatred and division and inability to end Anglophone crisis to multipartism. As from 1990 to date, we are having more than 350 political parties today. Many people don't look at Anglophone problem, they look at their party lines. Whether the Anglophone problem is there, they don't care whether people are there or not. My party stands for this, and it must be this. My party stands for this. That is nonsense we are doing here. And we continue with that mindset that we continue to remain on the same spot. On most occasions, you cannot say that I'm for federation. A is for federation, B is for confederation, C is for unitary. D, we can't say, no, my party is saying that it should be, we maintain this very status quo. Whether it is to solve the problem or not. And that's the problem we are facing in Cameroon every day. Recycling blame over and over, and people are dying. So what I want to tell you is that, unfortunately, one reason why we are where we are today, I will lay the first blame not to issue of any other thing, but multipartism and people trying to end crisis in Cameroon based on their party line. Whether it is right or not, they don't care.
Okay.
As party stand for
We say CPDM militants will say I'm respecting party discipline. It cuts across almost everybody.
Everybody stand for it. They don't care whether it will solve. That's why I keep saying that. I mentioned here that unfortunately we are having problem in Cameroon. The key problem in Cameroon is politics. Politics is everywhere, even in church. We cannot come and say people are dying over and over. You will not come and say that let's look at this. If federation are in the crisis, let's discuss on federation. If decentralization council, let's discuss. Forget about your party line or what your party is talking. But unfortunately, many people come on platform. My party is this, my party, and people are dying. We produce even less of people who are dying. So, Mr. Leonard, I think that is the key issue. I'm crying for crisis issue of multipartism and people discussing based on party line. Coming back to truth and reconciliation, when I want to look at one, Nelson Mandela did in 1996 in South Africa, when he created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission headed by the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. The first time Nelson Mandela told all South Africans that we are all wrong. Whether you are blacks or whites, the white were the minority were promoting apartheid. Nelson Mandela blamed white. He said all South Africans are wrong and they look for way forward. If you come and say on platform, I can say that no, the government have done this, they will bring another person from other side. You say, no, we have done this. It will not take us to nowhere. For over 5 years, the people are dying. I think we must be able we must keep away. I may mention somewhere that it's high time that intellectuality, academic intellectuality, must be accompanied by truth and honesty. If you call yourself an intellectual that you are mixed with lies and politics, you are not an intellectual. We should be clear about this. Time is coming, Cameroon, where we will judge your academic qualification based on what you are doing and not what you are qualified or your document. We don't care about that. So okay. What I must, we have. Let me not take over the floor. I think we should come. Okay,
good evening to you, my brother Julius Chofo, watching us there. We'll come back to your contribution, but to you understand what he's saying, that there is a time. For example, when this COVID issue was very tough in Ghana, we saw the political parties bury their differences in favor of fighting to solve the lives of people. But even in Cameroon, every political party wanted to show how they know how best to solve COVID. And we are seeing the Anglophone crisis. Instead of political parties to bury their hatchets and seek a way out, everybody has its panacea. Everybody has their finger grass to solve it. Well, is this not also the time? But we have discussed this severally. That why can we not have a coalition of political parties for the crisis Cameroon is facing, security crisis?
Well, let me just come in. I got my brother being worried about the diversion views of different political parties. And I got Carlos Ayaba, who was talking about the government cannot be blamed. He has put in place efforts and all the like. You see, sometimes we get worried, and I think that he needs to revisit his notes. I'm surprised he's talking about truth and reconciliation of now. It means he does not even understand the process of conflict resolution. You cannot be talking about conflict resolution when a war is ongoing. It is abnormal. I don't know how some people reason, because these things are factual. Those who have done conflict resolution understand what I'm talking about. There are no two ways. It is a science. International politics, political science, it is a science that has procedures. You don't jump from step 1, you start talking about step 5. It is not history and literature. It does not function like that. If people are disgruntled, the first thing you begin to do is find out why are they disgruntled. When you begin to solve those issues, you see tempers coming down. That's when you begin to filter in truth and reconciliation. You cannot filter truth and reconciliation when the other day 4 military officers or police officers were killed in Bali in cold blood, and you are here blowing grammar about reconciliation. That's why I said that sometimes these people who dance for bread and sardine, something is wrong somewhere along the line. But this is really the real point here, because people who watch us know exactly how the realities function. Now, it becomes a bit my imagination, Mr. Leo. When we take justifications, we say the state has done this, has done that. The same state that has failed and is at the center of this divide and rule. Somebody who was watching us just wrote, probably give his own point of view, as attributing the divide and rule as caused by the state. It is true, it's caused by the state. I don't know how someone's come on platform here and we think that we're talking to fools. The guys listening to us are very, very intelligent. I mean, intelligent than some of us who are talking here. And they know who is drawing the line and from which angle. Now, imagine that we talk about the somebody manning one of the commissions. I don't want to go into detail because I don't want to be personal. But we understand that before he was appointed, he made a xenophobic statement in the Southwest region. Now, I don't want to go detail into that. People who listen to me know what I'm talking about. Shortly after the xenophobic statement that talked against the Northwest in the Southwest, the appointment came. That is not all. In the course of that list, moving on, we know that there's a government official who called some person's dog. I don't want to go detail it. And the thing went unpunished. Mr. Leo, I'm still coming.
No, our effort is to bridge the gap. We should not. We should not. We should not.
You cannot tell me to blanket it down, Mr. Leo, because it's like I tell me I should not voice that.
Go on.
Good. So why that is going on?
But my question,
I'm coming to answer, Mr. Leo.
No, you 30 minutes. I asked the question about political parties. You are talking something else.
Mr. Leo, it has boiled down all of this. It's not politics. Those are talking about party politics. It looks like you're not getting, Mr. Leo.
Talk about what?
All those who are into various issues are boiling down to the political issues because of different views. And you come to realize here that as we move on, it still boils back to the fact that some persons still have it, because a traditional ruler will tell you that he's kicking off a particular group of people from another area, and a government official arrives and takes it lightly, and the same xenophobic movement moves on. I think I want to let us know that we are living by the grace of God. Because, like Dr. Oni said, that another Rwanda could be loading, is because God is just pitching us. Because the errors, the avenues where some persons have moved and the government has covered them, if not of the grace of God, we should be where we are today. So, in a nutshell, talking about the party politics issue, Mr. Leo, it will be difficult. What I keep telling people when we're analyzing politics is that the political scenario in Cameroon is unique compared to other political scenes in the country, in the world. I say unique. One, it is the only country whereby diaspora teleguides those within the national territory at a higher level. Even Zaire, Uganda, Liberia was not as we have it today. Now, in the political atmosphere, what do we find? The divide and rule still continues, Mr. Leo. Now, you realize that there has been some efforts of recent for some parties to come together. And then you realize when they come together, the next minute, you hear some of them say, we're not part of it. We're not consulted. I'm talking to you as somebody who has been in the core of all the alliances we have been trying to make. I want to answer the question of my brother Gentle, because we have made moves. When we make these moves, what happens? The next minute, a party official was in that meeting, the next minute start talking different grammar. How does it go about? Because the system infiltrates and has all it takes to fragment this political atmosphere, because what we call satellite opposition government-oriented parties. They know what I'm talking about. So when you call some of these, thinking that you are calling them to move on the limelight of the good of the nation, some come and the next minute they tell you, no, some part that no, on the power of 10 point. You see how they keep fragilizing the efforts we put in place. This is the third coalition we have made an effort to put in place. And the officials of the various political parties listen to me. They know what I'm talking about. We've held those meetings in Yaoundé. There was one that took place here in Douala. And we tried all in all to come with a common point of view that instead of having divergent view, they need to end the Anglophone crisis. They need to put a better living standard to the Cameroonians is at forefront. But at the long run, since as the system understands how to fragment, the system understands how to divide and rule. Because of them, they know that all what counts is money. You call somebody behind, you give him peanuts, so that he does not agree with a common front. What are we saying here? The political scenario has been infiltrated by the central system in Yaoundé. They know what I'm talking about. So if I see guys come on stage and they will tell you all kind of grammar, but what the point you need is that Gentle has a point. If they could leave politics aside, even in our agenda, SDF has the same agenda. No to the war in the north and the southwest. SDF has the agenda. I will be honest to say that. And all along, we've been trying to see how we could press hard on the Yaoundé regime to leave aside cosmetic solutions as Carlos, Ayabates, or that national dialogue or whatever. In political science, once you have a wrong foundation, it's like formula. Everything that comes after that is wrong. And these are the triggering effects we have. It is science.
We have talked about the failure of the success of the national integration and national unity scheme in the country, because we are getting the more fragmented in the nation. People see themselves as more of a region, as more of a tribe, as more of a brother and sister than a nation. But the question I want to ask here has to do with patriotism. Did we fail fully to implant that Cameroonian spirit in us? Where do we put patriotism in Cameroon?
Yes, patriotism is a missing concept in our chemistry. Cameroonians don't know what patriotism is. And patriotism simply just means you love your country and you can die for your nation. But we don't have that. We don't have that because, like I said, because of bad governance, and because of a poor education, we have not been able to solve problems so that the house is comfortable. And you know, selfishness and greed has taken over. You know, even when you have people in government offices, they don't attend well to the public. The greed always comes to the forefront. So when you have a country like that where the taxpayer pays for the education of this and that, and buys the uniform of the person in holding the gun, but when those people don't respect the common man, then patriotism goes out of the country. So what I'm saying is, when you have a country in which corruption tends to go up, the level of patriotism begins to drop. So, and we are saying the bottom line is, when you have an absence of respect, an absence of love, an absence of merit, an absence of truth, patriotism will go out the window. And when you say love and truth, you mean the God. When you don't have God in a nation, when people don't live according to some cherished values, and they just do whatever they want based on their emotions and the desire for money, then sooner than later the whole thing crumbles, and that's where we are. You see, when Carlos was speaking, he mentioned a couple of things. Government is doing this and that. I like to say here, and very clearly, that you know, we actually had problems starting 2016 and 2017, and these things ended up in a war. And then in 2019 we had this thing called the Major National Dialogue, which was a great opportunity for Cameroon to solve our problems once and for all. But in our very nature, since we don't like truth, what we did is, like I said on some other sister television, we all gathered in that hall, 600 or more of us. I was there. We called the cardinal and archbishops and imams and pastors and filled the place with it. But there was one thing that happened. The men of God were present, but the organizers carefully bundled God and threw him out the window. So God was not present there. And anything that you do on this earth and God is not part of it is not going to work. It doesn't matter what you do. And that, so we instead of sowing seeds we went to the supposed dialogue, would have sown seeds of reconciliation and unity, but we pretended that we were sowing seeds of reconciliation and unity, but we sowed the seeds of hatred and division. And today, the tree has matured, and what you are seeing now is all fruits of that. When you hear about reconstruction, the DDR center, all of those are just like they say in French, la poudre aux yeux. It's not effective. It's not.
Yeah, but are you limiting everything to the failure in the major national dialogue?
Because the major national dialogue was the one key.
Yeah, we've seen the creation in Cameroon of what is called a Mouvement 11 Million in the north now. We have something that is brewing in the south of Cameroon, where people think that the president of the republic should not be attacked by particular people from a particular region. And we've seen many political scientists actually saying that some people from a particular region are wanting to get back at the president of the republic because it's complex.
Let me just answer that before you take the microphone, Carlos. Now, Mr. Kum is raising something that is very important here, and that leads me to a second point that I was going to mention on this platform. You see, Cameroonians, join me. Let us see the pockets of stress in the nation. The first pocket of stress is the Anglophone problem against the government. The second place of stress is the youth against the government. The third one is the Bamileke problem, called them Baz, the Bamileke group against the government. The third one is the Northerners against the government. And the fifth one is just angry Cameroonians amongst themselves. What I have mentioned, tells us that we are going to have 5 different dialogues in this nation to solve this problem. We have to address this problem. Whether you like Bamilekos or not, you will talk to them. So this is how it's going to go. It's going to start with the Anglophone problem. And many of these dialogues, let me tell you, I've been saying that there's going to be dialogue, reconciliation, and unity. The day you hear that the first person has been locked in prison because of COVID, know that the dialogue is starting. So that's just the indicator. A couple of people will be locked in Kondingi. Once you see a couple of people going to Kondingi, know that dialogue is coming. All right. Now, let's go over this. We are going to have, and all of these dialogues will not be like the major national dialogue. Okay. It will be dialogue in its real sense. And the dialogues, Anglophone problems will be solved between Anglophones and government. Don't go and take Northerners and come and mix it there and cause confusion like was the major dialogue. Then the Bamileke problem will be solved between the Bamilekes and the government. Okay. Northerners and the government. So that's how it's going to be. So that we really solve problems.
Are we not also very extreme in our positions? That is, Cameroonians are too polarized, very difficult to shift. Everybody wants to prove that whatever they believe is the best, and the tension keeps mounting amongst the people of Cameroon.
Actually, Mr. Leo, what you've just stated, fixed positioning, is what has caused a delay in the reconciliation, where people have taken extremist positions and don't want to move. Now, the biggest question is, how do we remove these people from these extreme positions? The first one, as Dr. Nick cited, is re-educationing. Because we see a system where, as I said earlier, we have people who have constantly and persistently misinformed the public. The government has done this. Or, for example, last week in the country, there was internet shortage, and people were already clamoring and saying the government is trying to block internet access. No, we have to put a stop to that. We also have to realize that the problem does not lie in having 350 parties, because, like it or not, there will always be an opinion of variation. We always have an opinion of variation, and Cameroon is a country which has signed the Charter for Human Rights Declaration, where Article 21 states that everybody has a right to democracy, Article 20 says everybody has a right to join an assembly, and Article 18 says everybody has a right of freedom to opinion. So if you come here and say that it is because we have this reconciliation delay or nothing is working because of 350 parties, it means we are instead adding fire to delaying the reconciliation process. We need to respect everybody, be it the person is from the government. And to add again, you asked a very important question. Our interest in this debate for reconciliation is not about the government versus the separatists. No. We asked a very, and Dr. Nick elaborated on this. We have the BrigadeAntiSardinard faction, we have the Federalist faction, we have the Confederalist faction, we have the Separatists, and many other factions. So it becomes
the Northerners.
We have the Northerners as well, the 11 million. So we have, the government has a lot of people to dialogue with. And we cannot be giving these problems were not problems that were caused overnight. They were problems which we accept that they are problems. They have accumulated for a very long time. And we do not expect the government to be in a position to solve this problem in 1 week or 1 month or in 1 year.
Mm-hmm. So, government machinery grinds slowly. That's what we are adopting.
Mr. Lee, there are processes to everything, and we cannot rush over a very delicate process like this.
Okay, Ayawa.
I think my problem is lives of Cameroon. My problem is lives human beings. The people who are dying in Norwest and Southwest are Cameroonians. Those who are dying in Norwest and Southwest are Cameroonians. Whether it's a process or not, the person who's supposed to speed up the process to speed the process. Because the person who's in charge to speed up the process, if your daughter or your son dies, it will be a problem. We are all human beings. We are all Cameroonian. Sometimes it call for consent. That's something that sometimes we just talk and we keep repeating. The Anglophone Crise started in 2016. We are in 2021. We keep seeking one thing over and over. And people are still dying. Cameroonians who have families. Sometimes I used to wonder where are the conscience of Cameroonians? We don't have feeling for one another. Is it all about money and politics? Sometimes it's painful. It's just that sometimes some people it does not touch them because they don't have relatives. Maybe they are not be affected. So I think Mr. Lole may come back to this of patriotism. That's why it's love for a nation. Where you see some countries, you see the love that they demonstrate to their countries. Like in America, when one American citizen dies, it is a whole problem. It's a real problem that it touched almost the whole of America. I like when Donald Trump came to power, many Cameroonians were singing of many people in the world with his policy. People look at his policy and people were saying that he's trying to bring America back to the policy of isolationism, whereby in the 1930s and 40s he said that America adopted a policy whereby America first. Even today, America first. America don't play. Its citizens, they might have other internal problems. There's no heaven on earth. But when it comes to citizens of America, when Anglophone Crise started in 2016, America signed a communique that all Americans living in North and Southwest will evacuate and go back to America. That's the patriotism we are talking about. Love for one another. Not that your sin is dying and then you say that no, that man it was this party, this man, it will not help why human beings are dying. So what I'm talking about, I want to hint on this patriotism. The number one thing why most Cameroonians are not patriotic to their country is because Cameroonians, many Cameroonians are disappointing some Cameroonian individuals. What am I saying here? What am I saying here? What I'm saying is that there are some Cameroonians that tend to look at individual rather than looking at the state. I keep saying that whatever the situation, we should look at Cameroon as a state and not individuals. I make a statement somewhere that Cameroonians, be it leaders, be it the civilians, we are going to pass away, but Cameroon will remain Cameroon for our children. So many Cameroonians look at Cameroon, in some individuals in Cameroon or some representatives of Cameroon, and their activities discourage them from supporting Cameroon or from being part for the nation. What about corruption and discrimination and marginalization? It's also a part that contributed to lack of patriotism or love for the nation. I cannot be qualified to sit for a concours, very intelligent that I sit for the concours, and somebody that I know that I'm more qualified than a person who come from behind and sit for the concours and go and buy or go and be corrupt, and tomorrow I'll see his name on the list and I'll be happy with the country. I cannot it cannot go like that. We're talking about Dr. Neil is talking about people who have been arrested and kept in Konangi. Since when? Since the 1980s, Cameroon had what we know as Cameroon economic crisis. And many people were seen in the 1980s, Cameroon were pick and put in Konangi. Up to today, people are still sent to Konangi. What measure are we putting in place to put an end to corruption or to reduce it? Is there any transparency or accountability that can put an end or monitor this? Even when they are kept in prison, where is the money? So it's not about that. We're looking at how can we bring back the mindset of Cameroonians. How can we make Cameroonians look at Cameroon that they belong to Cameroon? Whether we like it or not, there are many Cameroonians who don't belong here. There are many Cameroonians, even when we see most of these things that happen in the diaspora, they know that they will never come back to Cameroon because of the way we have. It is our country. Nobody loves Cameroon more than others, but the situation in Cameroon, you see some Cameroonians feel more Cameroonian than the others, and bring in conclusion that what I say is and nobody will add nothing. It is not going like that. They must be critics. That's democracy. I think we are advancing, we will not go behind. So I think the issue of democracy had a lot of problems. Dr. Nia also mentioned on employment. I cannot be qualified for a job and now I'm not employed. Why somebody who is not qualified is employed? It will make me to be angry. Hatred. You see somebody wants to make say to Chueki, to Afekwa. It does not make sense. I think we should have love that brotherly love among us as a people. So that is that. Mr. Ali, I will come to look at something here. we have a lot when it comes to this Anglophone problem and many other. We have Cameroon a lot of problems. Identifying that we already know that this. I think when we're on platform, I keep saying on many occasions that whenever we sit on the platform, we have been talking and talking. But what is the way forward? We should be looking at. You should be solution oriented. I'll keep saying that there's the same time that if there's something that you cannot solve the problem or help in solving, don't ignore it. Don't participate, become involved in something that you cannot. You will not act something or solve the problem. You cannot come on people are discussing online or we're discussing here about the Anglophone problem, other problems in Cameroon, and you're unable to bring any idea or any something that will act or put an end to the problem, and then you instead can't add more one to it does not make sense. I think I wish that we as a people should consider a number of Cameroonians who are dying every day and look for a solution.
Mr. Leo, greetings.
The issue of process it does not make sense.
Mr. Leo, greetings to you all in the studio, especially the Kangaroo Man. You guys are doing a marvelous job. I'm watching you on Facebook. We are not receiving you in Bamenda. It's Freddy writing from Tambesi quarters in Bamenda. Freddy, can you just write to me tomorrow morning on WhatsApp so that I can give you the contact of someone who can help you? Many persons have indicated there is a change in our signals. We formerly you were receiving us on SD. It's moved to HD and 4K now, so the quality is quite high and some technicalities will need to be done at the level of the person who is supplying you image in Bamenda for you to get us in very good quality. That is why some persons are not able to receive us, but I'm sure the days ahead everything is going to be fixed so that you get us. Good evening to all of you watching us from Bamenda, Northwest Regional Capital, as well as in Boya. The problem is almost everywhere. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Dr. Nick has just passed a prophecy. Long live Dr. Nick. Ngwa Royal writing from Boya. And Dikum writing from Sweden says, accept royal greetings from this end, Mr. Leo and the panelists. Mr. Leo, it's sad to see some people supporting the government. The result of this growing hate speech and divide is as a result of failure from the government to effectively distribute the national cake, imbalance in the civil service and poor appointment procedures, massive unemployment, poverty, leading to frustration, unnecessary numerous political parties created by the government, the failed institutions put in place by the government, the worst set of youths in Cameroon are those supporting the Cyprian party and the leader. Okay, Prince Njikum, good evening to you. Paddy Brown writing from Bamenda says, Mr. Kum, we preach forgiveness and reconciliation, but our soldiers still practice hate. Last week Friday afternoon at Frontier Street Junction, 5 soldiers gave a taximan general snake beating because taximan was trapped in traffic, but this armored car was hurrying to pass and the taxi could not clear for them to pass because of the tight traffic. But the soldiers, 5 of them jumped out of the car and bounced on him, well beaten for nothing. So if our soldiers hit us this far, I'm afraid forgiveness is far-fetched. Paddy Brown, the Bible says if you are wronged 77 times, you should forgive now. So please do forgive. We need peace. Kangaroo man, they're loving. Now we're talking about patriotism. We're talking about love for nation, and we have representatives. I'm talking about the MPs. They say MPs are MPs for the nation. Have we seen MPs from, say, the Northwest show so much concern for what is happening in the North? Have we seen MPs from the East show concern for what is happening in the South? Is that not where we have a problem?
Mr. Leo, you know that the system is operating as per the modus operandi put in place by the administrative machineries in Yaoundé. When I say kangaroo, it is kangaroo in toto. I am not mixing words. It is kangaroo to the whole, to the fullest. Why do I say so? As per the Constitution, 1996 Constitution, it tells you that parliamentarians, just like senators, will obviously be representative of the people and to work for the interests of the people. What does it imply? If you interpret that connotation, it tells you that once you are an MP, you become an MP for the nation in the first place. Secondly, you then become an MP in your own constituency. which means the first clause that talks about an MP for the nation means that a worry anywhere in the nation is your concern. I could be the MP of Mayo Chana, and I am in Douala, and I see a situation where I can help. I help first because I'm an MP for the nation, not because I need to go back to Mayo Chana division and then help because that's where my constituency comes from. These things are clear. But at the level of the practicality of it, because the regime does not enforce its laws and institutions, this is where the kangaroo-ness of it comes into play. It is true, the MPs are the way they are because we are living in a lackadaisical manner in a system that has expired. So that aspect of follow-up for things to be done accordingly is not taking place as it's supposed to be.
Is there an MP who does not know that he or she is an MP for the nation? Let's take the MPs from the Noon division. Do they really take what is happening in the littoral as concerning them?
Mr. Leo, what you are saying is they know it off the head. True, the constitution states it. But now, you know, having something on paper, having something on your head and applying it are two different things. That's why you discover that when you talk about Socrates himself, he tells you that man is born free, but everywhere is in chain. There are institutions that are created to reinforce man's capacity to move in accordance with state rules and regulations. So MPs will know. But if there was a mechanism that pushes them to carry out these actions, imagine when the Anglophone crisis just started, there were some senators in the south and east who regrouped themselves and spoke contrary to what was transpiring. We know about that. And you could imagine that these are people who work for the nation, who understand the law, but at the same time decide to group themselves and then distancing themselves from particular actions in the nation instead of converging as parliamentarians or senators as a whole. So it becomes a worry. Now what happens? The institutions that are put in place are as the institution lacks. So people do what they think they can do and go scot-free, and nobody is called upon for any quarrel. Now imagine, we're talking about, you see, I said something is wrong with those who support the system, mentally and spiritually. Look at it. When Boko Haram was hitting Far North region, I said I contributed. Far region is not my area. But because it's Cameroon, I contributed. At that time, I was a very young student. I remember 500 francs that I gave in a meeting that I attended at the Congress of Mbamenda. 500 francs at that time as a student that was Form 4 was so much money for me. But at that time, around Form 5, I had to contribute. So I saw my uncle contributing, I became moved. And the pocket money, I too moved. And you know, during that period, SDF contributed. It was not an issue of political party. It was Cameroonians in general. And the contribution went round the 10 regions to assist the military in combating Boko Haram in the Far North region. That was when what we call a patriotic spirit stepped in at that point in time. Now, what do you explain? How do you explain that the crisis is ongoing? Senate President Nyat Difenji, President of the National Assembly, none of them has stepped foot. I say step foot in the northwest and the southwest to at least take a look, like stop taking and then trying to canvass or to say that they have MPs of the nations, let them help to calm down situation. It tells you that sometimes the regime in Yaoundé is telling us that we are moving on two separate directions. When I see some psychophants tell us that the state has done this, has done that, it becomes a worry, Mr. Leo. I am saying it because I'm coming from ground zero, as they call it. I tell you that I was caught in the trap. In Bengui itself, we were laid on the road by the non-state amateur, what they call the Amber. And after interrogation for some few, getting to 30 minutes, we left. Not long from that particular area again, we were intercepted by the security forces. Now, you discover that when you are in that area, you are not free as you think. I was almost caught in a bullet at my 90. That was on Friday, while in Bamenda. People blow ground here because they have not gone to these areas. If you live in these scenarios, if your brother, your auntie, or your uncle have been shot dead during this confrontation, the drama we blow here, we will not blow that drama again. Because some of us live in our comfort zones, we tend to pretend as if we are English speaking. We are Cameroonians, one. But if an aspect affects you, I said some time ago on your platform, Mr. Leo, that if those in Yaoundé had their direct relatives on the ground and they were victims of these scenarios, which is not what we pray for, this crisis would have come to an end. I have been able to investigate in my 4 days mission in Kumba, Manfe, and Bamenda that even those who were killed, they are not, their parents and their children are not high profile. Those who were killed, in terms of the military, it's
at the hands of the MPs tied, or you think they are not aware, or they don't see things from your perspective?
They could see from the perspective, Mr. Leo. The question is, what can they offer? In the first place, under what parameter were they put in place? Mr. Leo, these things count. I'm sorry to tell you.
How do you say
Let us say under what parameter, Mr. Leo? If you say a representative of the people, Under what condition? Let me shock you, Mr. Liu.
You had an MP now.
Mr. Liu, let me shock you.
Your party had an MP.
My party had an MP, not now. I'm talking about present dispensation.
Okay.
Let me shock you, Mr. Liu. Most of those in the 2 English-speaking regions of this country who manned political positions did not mount it because they were supposed to be. They manned it because of circumstances prevailing at the point in time. They know what I'm talking about. Somebody was not supposed to be mayor because conditions were critical, and the real persons who envisaged got scared, retreated to Yaoundé, and pushed for these guys to take forward. That is the reality. So if we talk about people who are representatives, the question is, how true do they represent the people? It's a call for concern. I know of MPs. They are hearing me from Yaoundé. I spoke with them. I was at the closing of the National Assembly in Yaoundé. They know very well that circumstances forced them in on instructions from some members of some quarters of the Select Committee, because those who were supposed to be said no, they can no longer go because of the security challenges. So these young few guys who came in, they braved the odds and they took up the center stage. And so when you look at it critically, were they really, Mr. Liu, really representing the people? If you don't represent, how do you talk? That's why they are mute. Their hands are not tied, but because they understand that there's a missing link between they themselves, parliamentarians and senators, and the people. I think the few persons, like we could see Senator Kmer there, who's always outspoken, those are 1 in a million. Very few of them. We have Senator Mbela Mukichas. Those are few. The rest, I say the rest, you don't represent the people. That's the truth. That's why your mouths are closed. Even if they kill 70 people in your area, even to make a small communique denouncing the killing, you still mute. And people that you pretend that you represent them. You don't represent them. Okay. Let any civilian person here who is conversing with the regime give me another counter-attack. I will know that he has a point, because Mr. Liu, I'm telling you from the field. As an investigating journalist, I can give you more facts, if time permits, on what I met on the ground. I say on the ground.
Dr. Nick Ngwenya, well, for a very long time we've been talking about peace, unity, national integration, but we've also known some persons who have been known as peace crusaders for decades. Today we have persons who have actually served as conflict resolution experts in this nation. Did they not do enough work, civil society, to bridge the gap that is been widening amongst the Cameroonian communities? Were they not given opportunity to actually get the job done?
You see, getting peace to work in to return to Cameroon is you have to have many hands on deck. Mm-hmm. It's not a challenge for 1 or 2 persons. It doesn't matter what who they are, but it has to be this job that has to be done by many hands. You know, that's a job that the Cardinal could not do alone. That's a job that Ntumfo Nico Hale could not do alone. That's a job that some of these NGOs cannot do on their own. But it works like this. You know, while you might have a lot of people with good faith who wants to participate in solving the problem, somebody has got to lay a solid foundation on which people would work, and then it would bear results. But when the foundation that is laid is a rotten foundation, then those people find it very difficult to work. It would look like the hands of those people that are trying to work, their hands are tied. No, it is the circumstances. It's like asking me to go plant some corn or some beans in a farm that is filled with susongo. You have to clear the farm, dig the susongo, burn it, and prepare your beds. Then you plant. But you cannot just go and take seeds, cocoyam seeds or whatever, and plant on a farm that you never prepared. So technically, what I keep going back to, the major national dialogue was a great opportunity for that farm to be cleared. But unfortunately, we went and we took some people who don't know how to clear farms, and they did what they did and thought they had cleared the farms, and that's why we are having the problems today. And a lot of the thing that caused the failure of the major national dialogue as an idea was great. The thing that failed was that they did not use those experts that you are mentioning. It's not just something you just get up and then you just work on your feelings. This is how it's going to be. No. Work with experts. Experts, people who have studied the human nature, people who have studied conflict resolution. People like Professor Zengwa and many others. And then even on the francophones, you have good people with good intentions. Put these people together, and they will tell you, to solve this Anglophone problem, we are going to, these are the steps, 1, 2, 3, up to 10, and we are going to start with 1, and this is when we move to 2, and when we are doing 2, we might add 3, 4, and so on. You didn't do that. You just crafted something, and then made people to swallow the wrong tablet, and then you think it's going to work, and then you come out with things. We have reconciliation, DDR commission. All those are fake. That's why it's not working.
That's why it's not working. No, but these commissions, the government and the like, are not, these institutions are manned by people now. Is it not us who are failing, either the government or the institutions? Are there some angels from heaven who are manning it, or they are our brothers and sisters?
Mr. Leo, the process of reconciliation and effective peace depends on us Cameroonians, not on any foreign influence. And for us to be able to reach that target, we must accept 3 truths. The first truth is that we must accept that we must preserve life. The second is that we must accept that peace must reign, whether we like it or not. In other words, we must change our positions. We must not remain extremists. The third truth which we must accept is that there are already institutions and policies. And if we claim that we don't like this institution and policies, we should follow the democratic process to change them. When I hear my brother from the MRC clamoring about the MPs not traveling around, we should remember that that's the problem with this old generation, the thing we are still in the 80s. We're in an electronic generation where we don't move physically, we move electronically. So an MP does not, an MP obviously serves the whole nation, but an MP for Upper Bayang does not need to move from his region to see what's happening in the north, because he can rely on electronic information. But when we have journalists who have hijacked the process of giving right information, how do you think these MPs will react? They will not be able to have the right information to react. So for us to get peace, as I said, we must accept the 3 things: to preserve life. That's the first thing we must accept. We must accept the respect of institutions and policies already set in place, and if we don't like them, we must engage in democratic processes to change them. And the last is that we must force ourselves to accept that peace must reign. In other words, changing our positions. So the responsibility falls back to us Cameroonians.
But what would account for this extremist position? Very difficult to move for all these years.
One of the factors which makes people to have fixed positions in the extreme ends is denial. Some people will deny that the military have not committed atrocities. Some other people will deny that the Amber faction has not committed such and such. So they tend to remain in their extremist positions. So for us to be able to combat that, we must remove that spirit of denial. We must condemn where we must condemn, and we must give glory where we must give glory.
Must give glory where yeah, but I'm looking at where did the government go wrong? Gentle, I'm talking about with respect to the making use of the peace crusaders we have known in Cameroon, conflict experts. Have they been relegated? And we've given the impression that only government officials can solve Cameroon problems. The civil society also.
Mr. Leo, I think before coming to what you are just asking, my other panelists made mention of institutions and policies, and I want to let him know that they are made by man. Laws are made by man, and the very laws can still be undermined by man for something like essential human lives. I think I keep saying that human lives is far more better than any other thing. We cannot say that policies and institutions must follow in there. And I don't want us to be going far about the issue of democratic process, because since the early 1980s, I'm a researcher, I'm a history researcher, I do a lot of research in history. Since the 1980s, the democratic process in Cameroun remained the same. So when we talk of this democratic process, that's why we discussed the other time on the platform about youth reluctant to become involved in politics in Cameroon, because they know that it will not change. It's not something of today. So when we talk of democratic process, we want to look deeply into it. You see that the democratic process of 1980 remains to date. So I think you talk about institutions and policies. We are all Cameroonians. If we see that various institutions that we mounted or we put in place start as a hindrance or is contributed to the death of Cameroonians, we can do something to remove them. It is about we as a people. Cameroonians are dying. I think we should be clear about this. Cameroonians are dying every day, and we must not be talking about policies, about institutions. What if the institution is there and then we'll keep dying? So the whole Cameroonian will die, and then state that institution and policy will remain there. Who will follow the institution and policies? I talk based on from human perspective. I think I feel it when I see that people are dying, when I see what is on social media. They are not animals. If you don't care, their relative care. If you don't care, they have family that are supposed to take care of them, send children to school. I think that is something that it is so disturbing. Mr. Leonard, coming back, I keep saying something and I keep saying something on many platforms that sometimes when people are calling government, some people should not feel bad because people know government and nothing. It is the constitutional right for people to depend on government for a solution, political solution like what we're having in Kamer. It is the constitutional right. I need to be protected by citizens. It's stated in the constitution. As a citizen, I'm supposed to be protected by constitution, by the government to protect me. It is not something, not imagination. It's a constitutional right. So what I'm saying is that Cameroonians as a people, if they are crying that many problems and calling on government, we should not go as far as, because most problems in Cameroon, 80% of problems in Cameroon, the real person to lay a foundation, as Doctor was saying, is the government. To lay a platform, it's the government. We cannot. It's not like blaming the government. Mr. Leonard, I was somewhere when we had a debate somewhere, and somebody said that, but when it comes to issue of Anglophone crisis or other crisis, people keep saying that the government should call for military to withdraw from the area. Somebody we had a debate on that. I said that, but if military can withdraw from the area for peace to reign, why not? I think sometimes it's not for military withdrawing her forces from the area. It's not a weakness. It's not a weakness. That is something we keep failing. We think that by saying that normally military can withdraw and police and gendarme will know that the in charge of maintaining peace will continue in some areas. It's not a challenge. It's just that too much Cameroon have a lot of many intellectuals who think everything is that no, it's a weakness. We should stop bringing laws to issue that you have to do human life. That this man state in somebody state somewhere that in which part Serbia, which part like that, the government state and the people must respect the constitution. But we are Cameroonians dying. So Mr. Lord, what I'm saying is that the government needs to put in place an organigram when it comes to issue of peace in Cameroon. I applaud the government of Cameroon for one commission that when I look into that commission and the well-selected members of that commission, I was very happy with the government of Cameroon. The Ngabo the commission that did investigation about the Ngabo is there and brought back the report. What a miscommission of religious leaders. What a miscommission of experts in the field. I think when I applaud that particular commission and the choice of selection of members who constituted that commission. So what I'm saying is that the government of Cameroon had an upper hand to put in place a solid foundation.
Yeah, but
we are not blaming.
Answer my question. You people say what you came to say.
No.
But you have not answered my question.
Okay, go back, Mr. Leonard. I think you were asking about how government can use expert like
investigation into the Ngabo massacre. It's what I just said here. We should stop denial. We should stop denial. We should approve what must be approved, and we should disapprove what must be disapproved.
Yeah, but my question is, why have the government? Why has the government not make judicious and great use of conflict experts? And we have civil society organizations. We have these persons. This why the government is always making use of its officials. Is it ordained that all problems must be solved by government officials? In times of crisis, why not also borrow the expertise of some persons who necessarily may not be working for government to engage this process? For example, he quoted the South African experience. They brought persons who could do this.
Yeah, Mr. Leo, that answer is very simple, and it's simple as I will put it now. Now, the government does not want a scenario whereby credits will be transferred to other persons according to your thinking. But one thing is for sure, Mr. Leo, that if you are a government official and you appoint somebody to assist you in your job, it's not a weakness. Because at the end of it, kudos will come to you that peace was restored during the reign of Minister A or Minister B or Minister C. Whether Tayon Elvis came in as an expert in that domain or Professor So Christopher came in as an expert, that is just where the issue is. So why is the government not using these persons? Because of egoism. We have an arrogant system manned in Yaoundé that they go as far as using even cheeky words. We have seen that from time and immemorial. Now, why do you think of it if you say the word neutralize started from the government bench, as I got it from the beginning? On valeur neutraliser. Now, these are things that you discover that if you hear the word on valeur neutraliser, it's a word of somebody who is not willing to dialogue with you, but wants to use force. So anybody who lives in a system, my brother here talked about they are in a digital age. You cannot be quoting the digital age where people can see somewhere and see things elsewhere, but the solution is not digital. The solution is a solution in 1942. It means you're juxtaposing yourself. Because when you understand, Mr. Leum, in present conflicts nowadays, negotiation and what we call discussions are always at the center of it. But in a system, the brother here quotes how the MPs or system must not go somewhere in the digital age, but at the same time when it comes to the solution, they are using the archaic system that has expired. How does it go? Government will not want to use experts. Dr. Nick even here is very sad upstairs. I should be honest with you. That if you put him in the commission, what is the bad thing in it? He was a national dialogue and his voice could not be heard because he could not be given that say because the whole issue had been teleguided and carefully worked. But now in conflict resolution, first, as I said earlier, Mr. Leo, the procedures of that national dialogue was all wrong. That's why I did not go. I had an invitation. In the pre-one I went, and I made my statement clear when we went there that I cannot be part of the other one because the foundations are not clear. That's the importance of somebody who does political science, who can analyze things at the scientific part of it. That if you go and the formula to solve this thing is wrong, the steps all from start to finished, there's no miracle. If you like, you pray God from morning to night. Along the middle, you will not have the right thing to give you an answer, which at the beginning of it, you are using a wrong formula. So, at the long shot, you realize that aspect of egoistic tendencies, the aspect of arrogance. Now, with the system in place, from those who man it, that's why I said that we have a problem. Those who are put to man government offices, were they put there because they have the qualification? Were they put there because they have what it takes? No. Because they have what it takes to be answerable to a particular person who put them, they become now arrogant because to them, they owe no allegiance to the people they tend to govern. That's why we are saying that if we're in a country like Kenya or Ghana, whereby you appoint a vice president, and the vice president in turn appoints a government, it becomes a different ball game. Because during that period now, the person who is manning the government knows that he has some reports to give to the president who tells you that I want peace at all costs. But when these essence are absent, now, right even to the public conciliator, which Oscar here mentioned about, we have regional councils and all the like, because I know he does not know how they operate. That's why probably he's praising it. But now, how do you explain that? If you have all of this, you have a conciliator, you have Attorney General at the level of the regional councils, all appointed by the state, and they tell you that the regional councils function at the mercy or the function under the instruction of the governor of the region. And they tell that the governor of the region, in one of the clauses, has the power to dissolve the regional councils. Do you tell me it's an independent body that can offer anything? I don't know how some of us people without going through text. Because if you go through this text, you will know that all these things are window dressings that cannot go a long way to solve all of this. So government will not want to use the expert for obvious reasons that government thinks that it will be a blow on their part if some other persons come in to provide a solution.
Okay, Mr. Leo, good evening to you and to the co-panelists. I want to thank you guys for all your efforts in wanting to take this nation further. It's Enades writing from Moyuka. Good evening to you, Enades. Mr. Leo, please invite some of these so-called peace crusaders that are working under the government to come on air and tell us if they have been advising the government or they are afraid to bite the fingers that feed them. Okay. This one says, good evening, Mr. Leo. I am Dr. Foto from Douala. Our country is crossing a very critical era of its history, and I will call every Cameroonian to strive via the resolution of the crisis. The crisis in the northwest and southwest can't be called the Anglophone crisis, but the Cameroonian crisis, because we are all paying the prices of that. Nowadays, we are constantly seeing hatred messages all over the web and other social media coming from both sides, being English-speaking or French-speaking Cameroonians. Okay? I would like to alert my population by saying that after the resolution of the Anglophone crisis, we might have another crucial crisis which we can term civil war. I remember myself being insulted literally by some men in the Northwest just because I am a French-speaking Cameroonian. What a frustration. The reverse is true for some English-speaking Cameroonians who are humiliated in French zones. It is no more time to denounce the government but to propose resolutions. Let's be united and strive our efforts towards our peace. Good evening to you. Dr. Foto. Please, my brother Five is keep our eyes open. Okay, I'm sure he's doing that. Good evening, Mr. Liu and crew. Dr. Nick and Five's arguments are very constructive, but I don't understand what kangaroo means. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I wish our president is watching this program to learn more. Thierry is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu and panelists. It's rather unfortunate that when one criticizes Anglophones, they think one is on the side of the government. You don't expect me to allow a brother I know who has beheaded a fellow brother, sister, and go criticizing the government and parliamentarians, giving them names. Let's be serious and stop sounding as if the government is our sole problem. If the government is as useless as we claim, let's ignore them and revise ourselves. Calling them kangaroo or whatever changes nothing. The Anglophone problem is the Anglophone himself, including those criticizing the government. It's time for true forgiveness and reconciliation. Nkwain Bless from Yaoundé. Okay. Do you understand what Nkwain Bless is saying? What should Anglophones, what should Cameroonians be doing so that we can reconcile ourselves genuinely?
I think this lady has a point. She has a point, but she doesn't have to. She doesn't seem to master all the facts.
Okay.
The Anglophone problem. This is what happens. A problem starts and it's not solved. It's like having a small wound, which is a. You see a small wound on you, which actually is a cancer, and you do nothing about it, and then it just keeps growing, and before you know it, the cancer has gone to the bones and so on, and then you start attacking blaming the bones and the blood vessels and so on. That's what she is doing. But I guess she's of the younger generation, so she's seeing just a small aspect of it. That said, we have been talking about the Anglophone problem. If we had to solve the Anglophone problem, like we've said before, there is this thing that we call Parota's rule. It's called the 80-40. It's the 80-20 rule. You know, you would say that there are so many things that you want to do, you know, to solve the Anglophone problem. Let me give you an example. What has been coming from the government bench, they tell you about, oh, you people asked for 9 what, we gave you 22 solutions or something like that. You know, oh, we have this, we have given DDR, we've given that. In reality, when you understand the 80-20 rule and you try to apply it, you realize that all those 22 things amount to nothing. If you ask me, Ngwanyam, give us just one thing that we need to do to solve the problem, I'll give it to you. When David had to attack Goliath, he didn't go all over the whole place. He picked a few stones and used only one. So what is that one stone that will bring down Goliath? Here, bring down the Anglophone problem. Discuss, have a true and genuine dialogue with all shades of Anglophones at a round table and genuinely discuss the form of state. Point and trait.
Is that a condition?
It's not a condition.
No. Why not just say, let us, we may agree on the table whether to discuss, what to discuss.
Yes.
You are already setting an agenda.
No. That if you ask me, you are not coming to the table to take puff puff. What are you coming to do? I'm saying if you ask me.
Okay.
If you ask me, I'm telling you. So you can still go to that table, and then there are some smart people there. They will take you on a journey to Mbengui and so on, and you end up still having nothing, because that's what happened at the major national dialogue. People were taken for a ride. You take them, throw them over there, and they go drinking champagne, thinking that they. So if you came like to the major national, if we were to have a dialogue, and we truly want to solve the problem, and we use Parota's rule, because everything happens based on principles and mechanisms. You say, yes, we have these, and these could be the solutions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But give me one thing that we can spend 1 week and do, and it will solve 80% of the problems. Yeah. That's how Parita's rule works. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you must know it, or else you will fail. Then I would go into that basket and pick out form of state. Whatever, let us discuss the form of state, agree on it, and nail it and seal it once and for all. That's it.
That's what you think is going to reconcile.
And and that's what will happen. And I'm thinking that's what will happen.
Okay, Ayaba.
Well, I think the lady who sent the SMS has a point. We cannot keep on blaming the government. That is like taking a fixed position and not blaming the other side for their irregularities or extremist positions. So, and we should remember in conflict resolution, it's not about positioning, it's about interest. What is the interest of a common man? The common man in Nkona wants development. That's why there's a reconstruction commission. The common man everywhere wants regional autonomy. That's why there's a regional assembly. The common student in Kumba, in Mafe, in Kwakwa wants education, but some other person is barring the person from education. The common businessman wants his business to grow so as to be able to take care of his family, but somebody is blocking his business. So, going to the table is not about positioning. We must take a federalist agenda, we must take a confederalist agenda or a separatist agenda. It is the interest. We are going to that table to focus on the interest. And if we do that, we discover that we will shift all the blames from the government, we will shift all the blames from the side, and we will go to that table with no agenda, with no pre-agenda. So the first thing we should do is that we must realize that we are going to that table to solve our interests. And going to that table, we should not carry any pre-agenda.
No pre-agenda. Should forgiveness not be the watchword? Reconciliation, should they not be the watchword? Because once we have positions already, it means that once these positions are not met, our forgiveness is bet on something.
Mr. Lena, I think sometimes when we talk about the issue of truth reconciliation and other things, I'd like to give an example of other areas that we have also done. When Sudan had independence, South Sudan had independence from North Sudan in 2011. In 2013, the very South Sudan was plunged into civil war. And the leader, the Macky Sall was the leader, Macky Sall was the rebel leader, and Riek Machar was the president. When the civil war, we discovered that when the civil war was ongoing between South Sudanese, in that 2013, many South Sudanese died. At the end of the day, Riek Machar discovered that if I continue to remain on the high table, it would be a problem. He came down from the high table and called for a rebel leader. I think I keep saying that if we are sincere as a people, nobody should sit on the high horse. The time of people thinking that this man will be on the horse and this man is over. If we are sincere as a people, I let me mention that when Nelson Mandela called for Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Nelson Mandela did not blame the whites who committed the highest atrocity. He said that all South Africa we are wrong. What is the way forward? There's nothing like this man is better than this. It means that we are going back. Now, Mr. Elena, coming back to this truth and reconciliation. Which truth and reconciliation are we talking about that? As Mr. Tayon, I think the crisis is still ongoing. The war is still going. The crisis is ongoing. I think even the word dialogue, very soon, the word dialogue will get finished from our lips because we've been calling dialogue. But I think when I still look about what happened in Chile, Latin America, and even Argentina, when they called for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the first thing that the president did was he freed all political prisoners. All of them were released under what they call presidential clemency or magnanimity, his generosity. All the political prisoners related to the crisis were released. I just come. What if just imagine that in Cameroon one day, His Excellency Mr. Biya would just say that all political prisoners related to Anglophone crisis, no matter the atrocities they have committed, let them be released. All diasporans, all those in the diaspora, be it Bas, whatever, with sincerity, with good faith, let them come back to Cameroon. But the trust is, well, I don't like to generate argument. There was no trust. There was
for the dialogue, and nothing happened to them.
I don't want to I don't want to overemphasize on that. Do you know that there are many Cameroonians in the diaspora who don't want to come to Cameroon because there's no trust. They don't trust our country. We don't trust them. We need to trust ourselves. That's what we're talking about today.
There must be a basis, because those who came and left should be enough proof for others to come.
We are not refusing that. Just let me learn. So we're talking about truth and reconciliation, that one day we just pray that Cameroonians should be sincere to themselves with good faith, not only sitting on the table. Because if there's no truth, even the avenue for the dialogue will become a problem. That's why when you see somebody, who are we going to dialogue with? Someone will ask, where are we going to dialogue? It is become a problem, because we as a people, there's a lot of mistrust. We are not honest to ourselves. We are suffering. We have bad faith in whatever we are doing. That's the truth. And that's why, if we be sincere to ourselves and say that, okay, today we are calling for a dialogue, Dr. Let's talk about the form of state. Before the form of state, where are we going to sit to call for the form of state? Out of 10 Cameroonians, we tell you that there's no dialogue in Cameroon. Why? They had this. Don't blame them. Why? Once beating, twice shy. So what I'll say is that I think with sincerity, with good faith, the Cameroon as a whole can one day and say that, sit somewhere and say that, let all politicians, political prisoners related to Anglophone crisis be released. All the diaspora should come back. They can even face the first batch set of bushfalla or diaspora can come, and then the others will wait to see whether something will happen, and they will create an atmosphere, a peaceful and conducive atmosphere. And from there, we now begin. Because I keep saying like this, I don't want to mention somebody terrorist. They are Cameroonian. We are all Cameroonian.
Okay.
Yes. All of us are Cameroonian.
Yeah, you cannot force the nationality on somebody. Now, if somebody says I'm not a Cameroonian, you are saying all of us are Cameroonians.
No, Mr. Lena, I think before we have seen situation where it's due to anger. It's something. So we can have a child. We have seen situation within the family.
You are the mouthpiece of those.
No, I'm just saying within the family we have seen situation. If child leave and say I'm not part of the family, or you can call a political son, you bring that back the child. It is happened.
Okay, far is Tayong. We need forgive. We need to be truthful to ourselves. We need reconciliation. But the words love, peace, forgiveness are very far-fetched from our mouths. We still are throwing bullets of insults, hate speech almost everywhere. Do we really love ourselves? Do we really want peace?
Mr. Leo, if you ask every Cameroonian sincerely, they want peace. I want to be honest with you. Now, ask the question, what is happening that in practical terms, what they say as per their utterance is not in relation to what you will find from their actions? It is because of the kangaroo system. I keep saying that day in, day out. Of course, the parallel said, what is the meaning of kangaroo? Kangaroo jumps in a zigzag manner, which means it does not go straight. So, because the regime is not constant in their action, they are like the Enyo. Today they are on, tomorrow they are off. That's why they are called kangaroo. It is a highly uncoordinated system. That's why you have poverty, hatred, divide and rule. Now, not the crisis in the northwest, southwest, and all the like. That is the meaning of kangaroo. Thank you. Now, you see from what we're talking here on platform, I keep saying that sometimes it's good when we carry out research before we come on platform. Because if we hear like the rest of us talk on platform, it means that we don't even understand what is conflict resolution. Some of us, I have the impression that on platform we think that dialogue will just be one day as per se, and then you call people in the diaspora, and somebody tells you that they call some even came and went back. Hear yourself very well. Ignorance on issues that are scientific is a problem. We research on conflict resolution. We research on international politics. We research on international diplomacy. We don't talk in the air. So when we talk about that, I can educate him, because you need to learn.
Where you take what
Professor So is listening to what I'm saying. Now, when
public.
you sit and people say misinformation, this is a public, this is a high prestigious platform. I think that if some of us come here, we do not come by error, because some of us are sound upstairs before we come here to educate Cameroonians. If we're numbskulls, we will not be here. So if we are here to educate some of our panelists, we should take it in good faith. Conflict resolution has a process. Somebody tells us that no, Dr. Nick is giving an agenda. No, it has phases. You cannot go for real conflict resolution without an agenda. It's a lie. I am saying this. I want anybody who I have even PhD in conflict resolution to disprove me. It starts with processes. You have what you call the discussion at the backstage, at the background, where you begin to canvass for key persons who are supposed to feature in it. And in this case, you have other meetings that go at the background. From there, they start selecting When the meetings are at the background, the group is large. When they start going to the second, third meeting, they start reducing the group because they start getting the representatives who can now come for the final phase. During the second, third, final phases, there is an agenda. There is an agenda. Because if you don't have an agenda, you can get there and start boxing. You start talking about today, let's talk about light. When light is not the issue that brought people in the national dialogue, it ends in the fiasco. Configuration, we need to study it, because when we talk, we should not expose ignorance on the air. We learn it from those people who know it. I think my mentor is Professor Christopher. If I learn those things from him, I will not come on air here and somebody tells you that, no, you know that people were invited. Characteristics of conflict resolution in real terms has to do with one, neutrality of venue. Take your pens and be noting them. If you are holding a conflict where parties are involved and the venue is not neutral, it is not a conflict, it is not a dialogue scenario.
The problems of Cameroonians.
I am coming.
By
If you want to learn, you will learn it. The meeting in South Sudan, when the faction started, people did not know that South Sudan has 22 factions. You don't know about Rick Machar. The first meeting took place in DRC. That's the first meeting. Why? Because they knew that if they were to hold that meeting over there, it'd be a problem. And before that meeting took place, the president in South Sudan, he released some political prisoners, including some colonels who were of the opposition. And they moved the constitutional party that went to DRC in the first meeting. One, why? Because the opposition, the rebel leader, proposed that DRC, and the government of DRC also promised with some protocol agreements to protect those who come in and will not be arrested and ferried over to Juba. These are things that move. I don't know how, but some people come on air and they express ignorance. If you hold a meeting in Yaoundé and you are supposed, who are the principal actors? Dr. Lee has said something very important that we are neglecting. The Anglophone crisis is between Anglophone and the government, not between Anglophone, Northeast, people from the East, people from the West. No! No!
Yeah, but
so when you call this kind of meeting, Mr. Leo, what you simply do is that you discuss with the parties involved. Who are the principal parties? You identify them in conflict resolution. When you identify them, you put Kamer for preliminary phase. When do you think we can have a dialogue? Some can tell you Japan, another one tell you this, another part tell you people come to a consensus. Wherever you agree, the first meetings in conflict resolution are never held in the same country. Are never held because of that fear that you could be indicted or you could be bundled, and when the thing was come to the worst. That's why you agree on the venue. If it's Ghana, when people go there, it's when you describe the ground is being softened. That's when now you start getting that confidence in the regime. Then the previous meetings now, all of you can agree after you have examined both parties acting on good faith. Now to move now to the home country where the conflict is concerned, to continue with the last phase that gives you a final straw that breaks the Kamer's back. Okay, that's how conflict resolution is solved. Let's learn to do research and learn from
conflict resolution in South Africa was held in South Africa. So you see the tactic of picking one isolated case and saying no, we must have conflict resolution out of the country. So I will remind you that the conflict.
Should I tell you where Liberia and Sierra Leone started? If you want to learn, you
are picking out an isolated case.
I can give you cases on that.
In South Africa, they have their problems in South Africa.
And I'll tell you why it happened in South Africa. Those were the brokers. You don't want to learn.
Dr. Nick, almost everybody wants peace.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, almost everybody was talking about national unity and national integration.
Yeah.
But the actions actually work in favor of this integration, and that is why we are where we are today. Everybody says we want peace, we want forgiveness, we want this, but nobody is talking love. Nobody is talking forgiveness. Everybody is insulting. Everybody is so tough, because you talked about riding a high horse. Almost everybody is riding a high horse.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you give the impression like a high horse is for one person. No, almost everybody is on the high horse.
Everybody on the high horse.
Yes.
I don't want to listen.
We actually need this peace in the nation, and to have peace, there must be a set of values that go with it. And peace, there's something about peace. You know, if I ask you to define peace, you'll find it very difficult. You go check the dictionary, check Google search to try to understand peace. Peace is a concept. It's very difficult to define it, because peace is a byproduct of something. Peace is a byproduct of something. Peace on its own does not exist. Peace, when you peel cocoyams, then you have cocoyam peelings. All right. If you don't, you cannot have cocoyam peelings when you didn't peel cocoyams. That's how peace is. When you set in a mechanism for justice, then peace shows up. And what exactly is justice? You must also understand justice. Justice is a process that searches for truth. So when you put in a mechanism a justice mechanism that searches for truth, and you establish truth, then you compensate the wrong party, then peace sets in. So that is the foundation for it. So peace is not just something you talk about, and it happens. You cannot decree peace. You can never decree. Peace is not decreed. You know, you cannot have smoke without fire. So smoke is the peace. To have the peace, which is the smoke, there must be a fire. So peace is a byproduct of a process. And for these things to go on smoothly, you know, that process must have a certain mindset. There must be some values that go with it. We are saying that love is the basis. We are saying that truth is the basis. We are saying that the respect for life is the basis. We are saying that working on principles is the basis. We are saying that using divine wisdom or infinite intelligence is the basis. If you look at these things, that's the definition of God. That's the definition of God. So if you think you are going to do it in the absence of God, it will not work. Because if you don't want God, then you'll be dealing with Satan. And Satan is the father of lies. It will not work. So if you want peace, there is no way you can have peace in the absence of truth. And to understand, to summarize, when I read about God, who is God? God is an abstract listener we don't understand. God is truth. God is love. God is life. God is soul. God is spirit. God is infinite intelligence, that wisdom that created the world. God is principle. God works on principle. God doesn't work on emotions. I mean, you can make combinations of this and continue to say it, but therefore, if you want peace, when you go to that dialogue or you are relating with some other people, it must be based on truth. There must be love. You must have respect for life, and you must work with infinite intelligence, and then seek God's wisdom in it. Make God, if you are 2 of you, the 3rd person must be God. If you are 5 of you, the 6th person must be God. If God is absent, like he was absent in the major national dialogue, you might as well call it history.
Yeah, but you talk about God, Dr. Nick, God is love.
Yeah.
And my question stands that all of us are talking about God, but we are not acting love. Because if we were acting love, which is God, we will not be hypocritical, will not be insultive, will not be so stone-hearted. All of those things. Yes, because almost everybody says we should be God, but we are not acting God. I don't understand.
For us to be able to profess the love which you are showing, I will come again that we must accept certain positions. The first is that we must realize that in order for us to solve this crisis and the crisis that engulf Cameroon, because the topic of the day is not specifically the Anglophone crisis, but Cameroon as a whole, we must accept to end the processes that foster this suffering. For example, ghost towns. How has ghost towns helped the people, the interests of the people, at zero mechanisms? We must be able to stop education blocking. How has stopping people from going to school help the people? There is zero interest. The government also must be able to foster and push forward its efforts through the National Commission for Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism to fight things like hate speech, which we're experiencing here. I suggest that members of this panel should also attend that kind of commission where they organize their visits to be able to learn. The next thing is that we must, all of the parties involved must agree to the Charter of Human Rights, where they should respect life, they should respect opinion. When we do that, then love will foster. The last thing is that the government must accept truths. The first truth to accept here is that President Paul Biya is the president of this country. The next thing we should accept is that he's the guardian of the constitution, and he has been continuously evolving to foster dialogue. Then when we do that, we should be able to accept that for us to change policies, we must actually go to the poll to be able to vote those who believe will change policies. We cannot be clamoring and crying and criticizing the government like the MRC party, but they shy away from elections, but they want policies to change. No, Mr. Liu. When you have a party that keeps that kind of position, then they will never want to promote love. So for us to promote love, as I said, we must realize that it's not on our positions, but on our interests.
Okay. Good evening to all of you watching us, especially to you watching us from Banyu, and host of other places. Why are we not preaching love and forgiveness?
And Mr. Leonard, I was invited to a platform to talk about
because
youth.
everybody wants it done at the macro level, but between us here, why can't we share love? Why can't we speak love amongst ourselves?
I was invited someone to discuss about the rate of armed robbery, immorality among youth. And in the course of doing the analysis, one researcher said that when it comes to love among Christians and love among Muslims, Muslims do love more than Christians, according to his research. And when it comes to love among Christians, it's totally absent because Christians only talk Bible. We don't do it. Christians only talk Bible, they don't practice Bible. But when it comes to Muslims, according to the researcher, Muslims don't only do Quran, don't only read Quran, they practice Quran. There are some strong Islamic countries like Morocco, Mauritania. If you go there and you temper with Islamic faith, they kill you. Either you are for or you go. But when it comes to love, I'm saying this is a challenge among most, because almost 80% of Cameroonians are Christians. It's a challenge for us as a people. We don't take Bible to heart. We only do it. I don't mean all. I say most. We only read Bible on Sundays. Relation between God and Cameroonian end on Sundays. After Sunday, most Cameroonians talk totally something different. And that's why there's absence of truth. I talked to saying there's totally absence of truth among Cameroonians. From father right to the child, lies telling. It is the gospel truth among Cameroonians, and it is a challenge for us. It is a clear challenge for us. And what happened that because what we're talking, we're not only be talking about love. When there's no truth, when there's absence of truth, when there's no truth, there's no love. And when there's no love, there's no honesty.
At the center of everything.
At the center of everything. So what am I saying here? It is very funny. It is so sad among Cameroonians that, and that's why we see today hate speech. This man from here, this man from here, this man from here. It is totally absent. We have knowledge in academic issues and not in religious issues. That is the gospel truth among Cameroonians, and it's a challenge for Christians. So what I'm saying is that, Mr. Leonard, I think for love to reign among Cameroonians, and the love goes not only with truth, with forgiveness. For love to reign among Cameroonians, we must first forgive. And we are on this platform already. We are saving this man is from this party, this man is from this party. It goes back to the issue I talk about, issue of multi-parties. If you must solve Cameroon problem, you must not represent standing that you are behind a political party. If you are coming for a party, they will send you away. Come as a Cameroon. You are coming to a dialogue as a Cameroonian and not somebody who belongs to a political party, because you come and start singing your politics. And statistics show that African politics, 80% of African politics mixed with lies, stealing. I'm telling you the truth. I talk about African politics. So what I'm saying is that there must be love among Cameroon, and love goes what? Forgiveness. Why am I forgiving? Yes, you must accept that you did this wrong, and you said that please forgive me, and you must also accept the other part. All the parties, all of us were wrong. And that's why I don't want one. That's why let me mention that when Nelson Mandela called for created a commission, nobody justified. There was no justification. People came as those who have committed one crime or the other, and they are seeking for forgiveness. If you can't see them say that, they will also identify our own wrong and will recycle it back over and over, and at the end we will not solve any problem. We are all wrong. All Cameroonians, we have gone wrong in one way or the other, and we are coming sit as a people. First of all, forgive ourselves. Yes, I'm forgiving you. You are forgiving me. What is on the table? Whatever is going to go alongside truth and love. Don't come again and start saying that, okay, you start bringing in lies, telling me that we are going back. So the truth is that we as a people in Cameroon, beginning from father to son, we are a bit far from the truth. We need to face the truth. And when the truth comes, justice will come. When justice comes, love will come. So I think that's what I'm saying.
You think like him that we should put into practice what we learned from the church and the Bible? Because the Bible was not written for angels now.
For us.
They're written for us to implement it.
I think he's on track, Mr. Liu, because love cannot come for now. It cannot come for now. I will not be. I will not want to deceive you.
I love you. I don't
yes,
hate you.
No, I'm not refusing. When I say cannot come for now, because it will be at certain levels. Now, how do you explain that? People suffer. People know the consequences of where we are today, and some persons that you know sit and they support the system that causes where we are today. Mr. Leo, just said something right away. If we look up to the government, it's because the government, it is his right to protect us and to ensure our well-being. There are not two ways. The other individual issues are built at the level of individuals, families, and other like. But that's why I said that, Mr. Leo. When you have a kangaroo government, it triggers that. If you have a positive government, why do you think Rwandans are loving back their nation? Why do you think people in Rwanda want to leave from abroad and come back to Rwanda? Because the government policy based on the foundation, the Minister of our foundation here, it is the foundation of love that have been put in place, ignited to see people have that love for country, such that no one thinks that he's more patriotic than the other. If Kagame goes out on particular days per month and takes part in the cleaning exercise of the town, he is digging in the gutters, and ministers are with him following the same. That sense of patriotism is built by a governmental policy formulated. Let's not deceive ourselves. If you go to Ghana, when Jerry came in and was carrying out, was reforming the state policies, what happened? We were out of a period when he was reforming the economy. Even doctors who were well paid in America, Ghanaian doctors, saw the need to leave their well-reserved salaries over there to come back to Ghana, because the policy states that when you come back, at least though you'll not be given equal to what you were getting out there, but that sense of patriotism could be given to you some small advantage for you to stay. And they came back. Engineers, aeronautic engineers came back. Today Ghana is talking about producing a car. Ghana producing a car. When they were with the same period with Cameroon in the name of independence. You can imagine. And we'll talk about satellite, we'll talk about satellite station. Okay. So what is this issue here? Simple, Mr. Liu. If we begin to have rigorous policies, I like the way we used to talk, that we begin to build ourselves. Mr. Leo, the overall policy has a role to play on your family. If the government itself has policies that does not make you feel like you belong to this country, where somebody thinks that they are the ones who man the country and they are more patriotic than the others, just by that alone, it starts making you to know that you start looking at somebody without love, because you ask, but why should the person think that he's more Cameroonian than you? Is it because he's eating bread and sardine every day and you don't have the bread and sardine? So all in all is that the policies put in place are affecting us, and at the same time, and lastly, all of us here, like Dr. Nick and Gente, are saying the aspect of truth. Now we are on a platform. We have, for example, we have Oscar, who knows the realities on the ground, who knows that things are not going, but he tells you that bilingualism commission, that is a commission that he does not know how the statutes work. You only do and propose, but the government has no power. You only, when you see things you observe, you write and send to the presidency. The president has the power whether to consider or not. Do you call that a commission? With very little influence, he is handling on it. And those are fallouts of he calls it. So at the end of it, we will not have the law, because we have people who are not truthful, even on this platform, because they are eating bread and sardine. Look at where we are.
That's
you don't add because you add, I will add. So just leave it.
That's the very thing we're talking about.
If you add, I add.
What I'm saying is that it's democracy now. God is love. He has loved us even in our weakness. Which means that Ayaba should love Fa even in his weakness, and Fa you should love and tolerate Ayaba even in his weakness. That's the only way we can grow peace. We must tolerate each other. We are talking about diversity now. So let's tolerate each other. And those of you who are watching from on wherever you are watching, some of you say I've taken money not to allow people to talk. My role here is to moderate. Moderate means that people should not go to excess. We should moderate. I am not there to add fuel to a burning flame. That is not my role. As a responsible journalist, I will never do that to please whosoever. And for those of you who are champions in insulting, all I can do is I will still love you back. I can't hate you because you insult me. I can't say anything. I only pray that God forgives all of us. Dr. Nick, I want to say thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Just before I give you back the microphone, just 5 key things that I want to mention very quickly as we get out of the studio. Number one, that we need a government of national unity in this country. And number two, you know, Africa, including Cameroon, we need enlightened, benevolent despots. Why? That brings the third point, democracy has failed in Africa because of poverty. We need to grow our systems. When the systems are stable, then democracy can work. That's why what Payaba was saying about elections and so on. Elections don't work. When you have a government of national unity and then you put in place an enlightened, benevolent despot, then you put truth on the table and you are transparent. Things will work. It's very important.
Okay.
And then the last thing, we need to solve the poverty problems that is eating up the youths and most of the people. And to say again that President Paul Biya is interested in a dialogue, reconciliation, and unity of the nation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Yaba, for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leo, for inviting me. And I would like to end by telling Cameroonians that we should practice two kinds of love in this country. We have the moral love, which is a love between two people or a small group of people. For example, we can consider Muslims. Muslims do not eat pork, but Muslims will not see a Christian who eats pork as an outsider. So we as Cameroonians need to practice that kind of love, which is called moral love. And the second kind of love which we must practice as Cameroonians is a democratic love, the love for our country and the love for institutions that govern our country.
Thank you very much for coming, Gentle.
Thanks very much, Leonard and other panelists. I think I love all of you people, irrespective of your weakness or my own weakness. And if I've hurt you in one way or other, forgive me. I call on the Cameroonian diasporas to forgive whatever the grudges or hatred they have for the government or for the Cameroon, and love their country. Show the love or the patriotism. I call for whoever who is sitting somewhere listening to us. It begins with you. Peace, the peace you want begins with you. The forgiveness you want begins. Forgive, love, no matter what. We know that it's not easy, but God can give you the grace to love. So we are all Cameroonian. No matter what, Cameroon belongs to us, and we are all Cameroonian. Let's love, let's forgive, let's reconcile.
5 is time. Thank you for coming.
Thanks very much, Leo. We will continue kicking hard until the government gets on its good footing. It will remain a kangaroo system and has to amend what it's supposed to do. So anyway, greetings to all those who are watching us, of course. Good guys from Tico, the Chombe's quarter veteran who are out there. I think that Mr. Justus, who's known as a Chinaman, they are all watching us right away. And probably I'll be inviting you too, because, you know, I'm also into seminars on Saturday, which I know Mr. Leo, you'll be invited to come there at Hagana Hotel. We'll talk about mobile telecom business, where we'll be telling people about how to grow, just like I'm taking the footsteps of Dr. Nig, you know, trying to be an entrepreneur. So we'll be teaching a handful of Cameroonians at Hagana Hotel on the Saturday at 10 a.m. on what it takes to use your mobile phones, and you make money without stress, without stress. So we'll give them the techniques. Thank you very much. You are invited, Mr. Leo.
Yes, I will be there. And just to tell our televiewers that tomorrow we are going to be discussing about what is making news as far as what is called Kanyamata tomorrow on Prime Hour. What is it? Can you really keep a man using charms? Is it possible? Are there consequences after that? So we are going to be looking at that tomorrow on Prime Hour. We want to thank you all who took time off to watch the program, and to you, the production team. Stay blessed. Bye bye.